Welcome, Danny and Neil. This is our first webcast with you two on our Q&A, live, our equivalent of probably what, Froomtown Television, FTTV,
Yeah.
that's the one. We should all be wearing caps and maybe using younger terminology than we should admit that we know. So basically we've asked around, we've asked some fans some questions about the playing staff, about going into next season, about some things that you might have had as your experiences. So we'll kind of rattle through those questions over the next sort of few minutes, and feel free to give some answers. If there's any swearing, I'll try and bleep them out, but let's just try and keep it for the kids. So let's start straight off with the easy question. So Danny, to you first. How much have you been missing football?
Yeah, massively. I think like most players and managers, we've been involved in football since we were kids, playing week in, week out. And it's certainly other than when I had my kids, it's probably the longest spell that I've gone without playing a competitive game. I think it's over 120 odd days now since we last played Bolton, the 3rd of March. So missing it massively, but starting to get the buzz back now, started to get back into training, and the announcement this week seems positive from the government, so all being well, we can get back out there pretty soon. But yeah, it's been tough.
So Neil, you've recently just joined. How are you finding the experience so far, and how did it come about?
It's been strange, obviously, with the scenario we're in now, and actually it's probably been pretty good because it's allowed me to spend a lot of time on calls like this with Danny, just chatting through the team and ambitions, goals and tactics and various other points we need to discuss. And actually I've had a lot of time to embed myself rather than just being thrown straight in with the team, and away we go. So it's worked strangely pretty well for me. But I mean, in terms of how it come around, obviously I was at Mansfield up until February this year as assistant to Ollie at Mansfield. That stopped and decided to walk away for various reasons there. I'd already had contact with Danny previously. I'd already done some scouting for Danny previously, and we had a few discussions then. And Danny was kind of saying, "Let me know if I'm still, interested in getting into something to start the season. Then give him a shout." I think it was with mine to other roles as opposed to assistant. But then obviously, unfortunately, James decided that he couldn't do the role anymore, so he moved on, which then kind of created the position of assistant. So having already done it. And the fact that we'd already had kind of conversations, it was we had our own conversations to figure out what we both wanted to do and where we wanted to go. It was a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest with you.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's great to have you on board, and I'm sure many of the fans will welcome you when we can actually come to the ground again and actually be sort of more than 2 meters away, and shaking eventually returns. So Danny, the fans won't let me get through this without asking one question about last season. So I'll keep it nice and simple. Can you describe the end of last season in just one word?
One word. Meaningless. It counted for nothing. all of that hard work and effort counted for nothing. But no, I think in all seriousness, I'd probably call it progressive. Certainly from where we were 12 months ago, on the pitch and off the pitch, there's been massive strides forward. We didn't obviously want to get relegated in that first season. That wasn't part of the plan. But since then, I think we've delivered on a lot of the things that we said we were going to. On the pitch, the football that we've put on show, it's been really good. We've got some really good players through the door. Attendances have gone up. Things behind the scenes are moving on nicely. So certainly a really progressive 12 months. So it even though the points in the table doesn't stand, everything that the foundations we put in place will stand us in good stead going forward.
Fantastic. So Neil, you've mentioned there was a lot of online work, but obviously now you're back on the training pitch already. How's it going? How are the players taking to a kind of lockdown version of training?
Yes, it's been good. Again, it's been strange, but we've done the best and made the best of the circumstances. Obviously, there's a lot of conditions and stuff to take into consideration at the moment. Various things like we've got 2 groups going, which is never great. You've got 2 separate groups when it is one big group, but I think the benefit of that at the moment is that we're pretty much trying to work on fitness and various basic stuff at the moment, as opposed to tactical side of things more. So we can do that at the moment, which is good, and hopefully with the rules changing as they were indicated yesterday, we can start bringing the lads back together as one group, and then I think once we get to that point, it will start to become more normal again. And I think we're heading in the direction pretty quickly. But it's just been good, to be honest with you. I think a lot of lads have enjoyed it as well. It's strange to see lads enjoy pre-season, but obviously after everything that's gone over the last few months, and just to get out and do something and see the lads again, for me to meet them for the first time, it's been really good. So yeah, it's gone well. Like I said, we're in the early stages and focus pretty much on fitness at the moment. But over the coming month, we'll start to work on specifics and tactics and how we want to play.
And do you think that with a kind of mooted mid-September as a kind of rumour as the start of the season, will the squad be ready? Will they be fit? How's it?
Well, yeah, they'll definitely be fit the way it's going at the moment, because we've had, again, a longer pre-season than we ever have. And, me and Danny had a conversation after the session last night to say, because of strange circumstances, can we gauge it versus last year? And obviously I wasn't here last year, so I was saying to Danny that, was this about what we were doing at the start of pre-season this year and last year? And it was like, yeah, pretty much. So obviously we're going to have a longer pre-season now than what we ever had. And, like I said, we don't have any definite dates yet when we're going to start. I mean, but we have to prepare for the best case scenario in this instance, which is mid-September. And that's kind of what we're working towards. But yeah, we're hoping that actually we should be in a real strong position when it comes to being able to get into friendlies and then start the season. Because we need to hit the ground running, that's for sure.
Just chipping on that, Scott. I think it's a really difficult balance, because obviously not knowing a date, you don't want to peak too early. You don't want the lads to get bored and get stale too early. So I think the way that we've tried to plan it in terms of having 2 groups and is literally works like 1 session a week with the groups, and then now we might find out a little bit more in the coming weeks. We'll be able to step that up. I think it's worked really well, but we need a date as soon as possible so then we can actually put proper plans in place, because the last thing we want is to overcook the boys too early or them get bored and stale because they haven't got a date to work towards. So it's such a difficult balance.
So
yeah.
So as we've kind of seen over the last couple of weeks, it's been announcement time. Obviously, people around the leagues have been announcing players, even some a couple of months ago, but obviously large amounts are going out now. You've had a lot of the signings sort of come on board. Is there anyone else that's on the cards, or is it anything else that's there, or is it the squad as it is until proven otherwise, really?
Yeah, I think we're really happy with what we've done so far. You can never say never, but at this moment in time, we've identified our targets. A lot of the work was done, obviously, prior to Simo coming in. With myself and James Moon, we sit down early, and then obviously since then, Simo's joined those discussions, and we identified our targets. We identified where we felt we need to strengthen. We draw up a list of players, so we don't just go out willy-nilly and pick names out of a hat. We do our work. The 3 boys that we've brought in have all been watched, all been looked at, scouted. Obviously James Carey we've known from previous, and James Ollis, Simo knows him really well from his Mangotsfield days, but he was on our radar before, and we have had him watched. And Jake Jackson, another new signing, we've watched him 3 times in the last year, so he was a key target for us. So I think our main targets, the main areas we wanted to strengthen, we've done. But you can never say never. If somebody comes up who's better than what we've got, which will be a challenge, I think, at this level, because we have got a high quality squad. But if someone does come up who's better than what we've got, then we'll look at it. Simo, anything?
No. I think to be fair, like I said, for me, it's been a lot of learning because I do get around and watch quite a few games. I knew quite a few lads by names and their general skills and levels prior to joining. But obviously, I've had to bring myself fully up to speed with that. With everything. It's not just about their ability; it's about who they are off the pitch. What impact they have. In the changing room. So for me, I'm still learning. Still getting to know the lads, to be fair, but again, as I said earlier, me and Danny spent a lot of time talking about it, and we're both on the same page. We're more than happy with where we're at the moment. Again, never say never. It's football. Things happen, change quite rapidly. But yeah, I'm certainly with everything we've seen as well at the moment, pre-season, I'm more than happy.
So for the should we say the uneducated non-league and sort of step 3, step 4 football, when you look at squads in the Premier League, and obviously people are on longer term contracts and things like that, with us announcing the whole squad coming back, can you just sort of explain how it works with sort of contracts, signings, and sort of the 7-day approaches, just for the layperson, so to speak?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, you at this sort of level, the majority of clubs have got people on non-contracts. As you go up through the leagues, probably Conference South, you've probably got the majority of the squads on contracts. We've got, I think, 4 on contract this year, which is quite a large number for this type of level. But basically, a contract means we've got a lad on lads on 12-month contracts. We've got one lad on a 2-year contract with us. It basically means that they've committed to us and we've committed to them. There's risks involved with that, obviously, from a financial point of view. If wave 2 comes along with COVID, then there's obviously financial risk with that. But we've been clever in the way we've structured those contracts with each of the boys, and it just means we've got commitment from both sides. Commitment from us, we want them with us for the long term, and they've fully committed and bought into it from their point of view as well. In terms of non-contract, it's a mutual agreement in terms of your terms, and you've shaken hands, and they're going to be with you for the season. But that can cut at any point from both sides. So the player can decide that he's had enough and he wants to move on to new things, or from a management point of view, we can look at it and say, well, it's not quite working, or you're not performing, or other circumstances might kick in, and you may need to part ways with that player. So that's how a non-contract works, and the majority of the boys are on that sort of deal. In terms of the 7-day approach, again, any club can approach a player who's on a non-contract and put in a 7-day notice of approach. So basically, they'll send an email to the club saying, we want permission to talk to X, Y, and Z. After 7 days, they get permission to talk to that player, and then they're free to sign for that club. There are certain things, so you can't just go in and come in time and time again for players. So you can only make a 7-day approach once. If you go in for another player, you've got to wait 28 days, and you can only sign 2 players from one club in the course of the season. I think I've got that right, but that's broadly how it works. So it's not a case that one club can come in and just raid all your players within 7 days. So yeah, that's how it works. And I think 9 times out of 10, the boys who shake your hand, they shake your hand on the commitment that they're going to be there for the full season. So as we saw last year, I don't think we had many players leave. The first year was slightly different.
So you yourself, Danny, obviously agreed 2 years to sort of stay on board and to obviously take the adventure forward. But the fans were also already asking whether or not you're going to be extending that, which I think is probably an ambitious question, but I think I just thought I'd tell you that anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got to stop your family messaging in, I tell you.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, he might not be saying that in 4 or 5 games time if we've lost a couple of games. There's high expectations at the club. I was talking to Simo about it as well in terms of, and everyone who comes in player wise, they've got to get to grips with the expectations at the club. I remember last season we were unbeaten after 5-6 games, and then we went on a run of draws. And all of a sudden you could feel the pressure around the place, the expectations, and that weight of expectation on everyone's shoulders. So yeah, the fans might not be saying that in a few games time if results don't go our way. But from my point of view, I'm really enjoying what we're doing. I'm really enjoying what we're building. I want to be here for the long term, for sure. And if I am, we're doing something right, and that means we're winning games and competing and hopefully progressing through the leagues.
So you were one of the kind of driving forces behind the recently launched club values and the vision. Obviously, most of those targets driven by yourself and working with the board. Why are they so important to you?
Massively important. Again, myself and Simo have had conversations recently since he's come in, and he's on the same page with his values in terms of how he conducts himself, how I conduct myself in my personal life, my work life, and it goes for football as well. And probably started about 12 months ago, again with the previous assistant James Moon. The first year just wasn't good for so many reasons, and we felt a lot of people in the club, players mainly, didn't adhere to the values and principles that we wanted from them. I think it's so important. Last year, I think we got that. So we've drawn up those values. I think it's really important that everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, right from the academy, women's football, all the way through the board, supporters, even everyone associated with a club, singing from the same hymn sheet. But more important, we've got those club objectives, and the values underpin that. And the boys don't know it yet, the lads, but they've all been scored on those values. There's a couple of them who don't hit where we want them to be. So, but the majority of the boys are ticking all of those values. So we're in a really good place.
So you've mentioned that James Carey signed, Seth Locke signed on a sort of dual thing. Is this your formal retirement, or will he ever see you between the sticks again?
Oh God, Simo, what do you reckon?
Well, if we do, there's been a problem for a start. No, funny enough, we had this conversation the other day actually, and listen, it's dead handy to be able to have a call of somebody's experience on the bench if needed in emergency situations. It's fantastic, to have Danny there. But to be honest, for me, you can't manage and play. So it would only be in scenarios where there's a massive issue, and ideally we don't want to come across that. And if we do, then we'll look for options as opposed to Danny, because I think he needs to be in the dugout as much as you'll have me there. I think that's important. So I think it's really difficult to be able to play and manage certainly the higher levels you go. So yeah, we did discuss it the other day, but it's reassuring to have that experience there, but ideally not.
So on that basis,
I was just gonna say I like to keep myself fit and ticking over. I joined in with a goalkeeping session the other day. Couldn't walk for about a week afterwards, and I go out for a run quite often, and probably once a week I pull a different muscle. So I think my playing days are done, but I will try and keep myself ticking over just in case.
Fair enough. So Neil, as you mentioned there, one of the questions was how technical at this level do the match instructions become, like sort of from the side of the pitch or at half time, when you see sort of documentaries on the telly nowadays? How realistic does that feel to you?
I think people will be amazed actually the detail that goes into it, and actually to the detail that we go into at this level. I've always been a firm believer of preparing myself for properly preparing teams for the teams that we're playing. As much as it's a focus on us, you do need to know other people's strengths, weaknesses, because you do. That's it. We're in it to win games. As Danny said earlier, you don't win games and you're in trouble. So we leave no stone unturned. I can remember playing Danny's team, Bradford, when he was at Bradford, and I keep in mind of this quite a lot. We ended up beating 3-1. In a game where they were pushing to try and win the league. And I remember him being pretty good after the game. But I've been to watch them a couple of times, I've done homework, new strengths and weaknesses, and it just so happened that day that, that what we put in place and the plan we put in place, it worked. And I think Danny said previously, before I'd done some scouting for him. And again, you know, you talk about scouting at this level, and people kind of look at you a bit funny and think, well, you know, it's a bit over the top, but it's not. It can give you so much, and it can add so much. So yeah, tactically, I'm pretty strong on that, and I'm pretty very solid that it does make a massive difference. So the more in depth you can go, but it's how you deliver that message to the players. Ultimately, you don't want to confuse them. You don't want them going out there, you know, thinking, trembling things. You've got to give them clear, concise instructions. But that's down to us to deliver, which we need to make sure we deliver in the right way. But yeah, it's a massive part, to be honest.
Just add to that, Scott, if I can. I think is critical, absolutely critical. I think if you lose, you could end up losing a league title by 1 point. That could be you've conceded a goal from a set piece. You haven't gone and watched that team, or if you have gone and watched that team, you might identify that set piece, and you can put in place a plan to stop that, and ultimately that delivers you the extra point that you need. So from a scouting point of view, it's critical. In terms of us, the way we want to try and play, you've got to work on it. Everybody's got to be on the same hymn sheet from 1 to 18. Everybody in the squad. So we do a lot of work on how we want to play, with the ball, without the ball. So yeah, you see all these things with the guys on these documentaries, but even coming down a level, you've got a plan, you've got to be prepared, and you've got to have everybody on the same page, working towards one goal.
So with the next season approaching, obviously you'll look at the opposition, as you've just talked about, movements with people like Thatcham, with the manager going, and lots of their players going, obviously one joining us. How do you think the early sort of perceptions on how the league will go, or is it far too early to say?
No, I think as managers, you're always looking to see what other clubs in the league are doing in terms of signings and who they've lost, who they've kept. Obviously, the financial situation, nobody truly knows how that's impacted clubs in the league, and there could be some fallout later on in the season. You just don't know, and you just can't plan for that. But in terms of the teams who I expect to be up there, Tottenham, they've got a new manager and a new chairman who got promoted with Blackpool and Langley together a couple of years ago, making some really strong signings. I expect them to be right up there. Cirencester, who brought in a new manager second half of last season and went on a brilliant run, they're going to be up there. And then you've got the usual suspects of Melksham, who've been on a great bit of form second half of last year as well, and Evesham have recruited well with a couple of boys from Swindon Supermarine, and Bideford were on a run, and Cinderford are a strong side, but they've just lost their manager. So yeah, I think there's going to be a few teams in the shake-up, and one thing we've got to do is concentrate on ourselves, not rest on what we've done last year, because it counts for absolutely nothing now. And if we go into one game thinking that we delivered last season, then we'll be in trouble. Wife's just walked in.
Not with a cup of tea this time, or if it was just Neil got.
No, I'm not that.
Neil's just got it made a bit more than.
Well, you know, clearly my training policy works at home, obviously.
So just moving on to sort of a couple more questions. So Danny, we know you've got 2 young boys. We've seen you bring them to the games and everything else. Do they look at the telly, and is there a manager that they kind of refer to you as? Do they call you Pep at home or anything like that?
No. To be fair, they don't really watch a lot of football, my boys. So yeah, no. If they did know about football, probably be Alex Ferguson with the hairdryer treatment when they're not doing their home learning. Yeah, no. I think a few of the boys in the club, I've been called a few names in the past. Phil Babb, Stephen Reed, the old classics come out. But yeah, Nuno Santos maybe, if I grow my beard.
I think you need to age about 40 years as well. But yeah.
It's tough doing that to me. Oh yeah.
Just say, give it a month for the season, you'll be there.
In the nicest possible way. Neither of you've got a lot of hair to lose, so we're doing all right.
Mine's by choice, though, Scott. Mine's by choice.
Yeah.
All right, no need for that, eh?
So yeah, so just building on that, if for both of you really, if World was, if you had a wish, if you could sign one player from any division, any level, obviously, well, maybe minus the obvious two of Ronaldo and Messi, who would you bring in straight away to sit in the room side for next year?
Well, Simo, set the standard. It's going to be David Batty or someone like that in midfield, isn't it?
Cotton Palmer. No. For me, at the moment, I like to work with players with a lot of potential, help bring it out, and I like to see hungry players. And one person that ticks that box at the moment for me is Mason Greenwood. He is. I'm a Man United fan anyway, but he is absolutely flying at the moment. Right foot, left foot. I mean, his goal last night against Villa was a right foot. He you know, they've said for a while, you know, they've seen him in training and that his finishing press is you know, some of the best that's been seen. So he's young, he's hungry, he's raw. He's been at United since a kid. I've seen a picture of him today, actually, with a milk cup, I think, sticking his tongue out when he was about 7 years of age, something like that, as he was walking out. So it's for me, that's the type of player that I like, and it's exciting to see players that come through. I think England, looking the other day, I think England have got a lot of players in that bracket that are coming through, which is exciting for once for England, which would be good. But yeah, certainly I'd love to work with Mason Greenwood, that's for sure.
Yeah, agree with that, Simo. I think you've stolen that one. I was going to be the one I was going to go with.
No,
unfortunately.
I'm going to say David James.
Hey, but no, certainly on the same hymn sheet as Simo in terms of wanting to work with young talent who just love playing football. We've got a couple like that in our squad at the moment who you can't get the ball off them. They just want to play football all the time. So yeah, mine would be probably Phil Foden. If he's gone Greenwood, I'll go Phil Foden. Similar, exactly the same sort of principles and reasons why.
So you know that obviously we've talked about players coming and going into the things like that. Our stadium has got a new name on its way, and obviously we've not decided yet, and we've had two of our younger Robins that have been chosen to do that. But is there a name that either of you would have chosen if you were the lucky winner?
I think it's a brilliant idea. What you guys have come up with the crowdfunder and giving people the opportunity to do that, I think is superb, and look forward to seeing what the young guys come up with. Myself, I'm a bit of a traditionalist, I've got to say, so I would probably go with the old Badgers Hill. Yeah, boring answer, but I'm a traditionalist. Simo?
Oh God! To be honest, I don't like these grounds being renamed, and I'm pretty much along the same lines as you. I can't, you know, all these grounds renamed just for naming rights and various other things for money for clubs. I get it, but I like the traditional grounds and names of the grounds. So yeah, I think I'd be pretty much on the same lines as sticking to something pretty traditional or something that's pretty relative in the history of the club. That's for sure.
No pressure to the guys. We're not trying to influence them at all.
No, you can call it whatever you want. If you want to call it Simon's Stadium, that'd be great. You know.
Sorry, no, I think Elliot's just been on the phone, our commercial manager, to say that you were breaking up. And actually, no, it's a really good thing to actually sponsor our stadium and to put your name amongst it.
It is really good. It is good. I like to jump on the back of that. It is good, but I am a traditionalist. I do like the traditional names, or some hark back to the heritage of the club. So.
Brilliant. So on that note, we had a question again to say, well, other than the ground, what's your favourite place to go to in Frome?
Wow, I've been in Frome for 2 years. I've visited the ground. I've visited Selwood across the road to train. The golf club where the Robins Academy to train. Sainsbury's to get myself a Red Bull on the way to a game. But no, last year I did go to the Christmas market in the town centre, and that is a lovely place in the town centre. Some really nice shops and what have you. It's a really, really nice place. So we've got to see more. And Simo's busy planning some running routes through Froome, so we'll get to see more of Froome over the coming weeks. And people say hello if you see us running through the streets.
Yeah.
We'll try and speak. We might be a bit tired, so.
Yeah, our current favourite at the moment is Starbucks, to be fair.
Starbucks, yeah, true. I missed that one.
Okay, so just going back to yourselves, really. We've been asked, what's your earliest football memories?
Oh, mine would be down going to Swinton Park to watch Rovers. I'm a Bristol Rovers fan. Sorry if that offends anyone. Not sorry, because it's been a torturous time supporting them. But yeah, going along to Swinton Park and watching Rovers run over there was one of my younger memories in the stands, jumping around. Taylor scored and Stewart. So that was my kind of earliest as a fan.
Showing your age, mate. Showing your age with those names there. Mine would be World Cup '94, USA '94. Roberto Baggio for Italy. He was what a player. He was one of the players that I remember from my early days. That even though I was a goalkeeper, I always wanted to try and be Roberto Baggio, frustrated striker. USA '94 for me. Good memories.
Okay, and did either of you have any, or still have any, pre-match superstitions or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I do. I've got to wear the same underwear if we win. Well, actually, everything I wear on a match day. If a certain pair of tracksuit bottoms, trainers, certain top, underwear, I've got to wear the same thing week in, week out. And we went on quite a long winning run last season. So I was kind of wearing the same underwear. They had to wash them in between, obviously, but yeah.
That was going to be my next question. Are you going to put the fans at ease that if for 12 months that you didn't get beaten, that you didn't have the same pair of pants on?
Yeah. Saturday to Tuesday was a bit of a struggle. I'd have to wash them and dry them in the same day sometimes, but yeah, of course I washed them. I don't know if you've got any. You're banking.
No, I don't know. I'm normally pretty good. The only things is maybe food. When I used to play, I used to always have egg on toast on a match day. Don't get me wrong. I don't know why, but always worked for me. And then went into management. Always seem to do similar things. Like I said, when you win, you end up sitting in the same place in the changing room, for example, if you're at home, and if you lose, you then sit in that next corner, and it's real strange little things, like going to the cafe in the morning before a game, again ordering the same food or trying to eat in the same place, or it's all little things like that. But I won't be stinking with the same clothes.
Strange what it does to us, Scott. It is strange what it does to us.
Yeah,
obviously had no influence whatsoever, but everyone's got these strange little superstitions and routines.
Yeah.
Well, lovely. Well, that's the end of our questions. Thank you both for your time today. It's been brilliant. Have you got anything final you just want to share with the fans at all? Any insights, any news, any glamour friendlies or anything like that you want to announce, or is that all still to come?
There's some really exciting stuff in the pipeline in terms of friendlies, in terms of a couple of home games that hopefully we can get off the ground that have been provisionally agreed. So don't want to announce anything yet, but look out for those. It should be a couple of good friendlies for us. I think a massive thank you for the support that we had last year. It was absolutely superb, and hopefully from a playing point of view, we can go and perform next season and hopefully go a little bit further in terms of our performances and wins, and keep exciting the fans and bring them through the gate. So hopefully now the announcement's been made from the government in the last few days, that it won't be long before we can see everybody back at the ground and get back to enjoying football and having a beer and having a chat. That's what we're all in it for.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for. Just meeting people. It's been very strange for me. I've been able to really meet people we haven't physically met. Yeah, we spoke over here several times, but we haven't physically met. So it's nice just to meet people and have a chat with a few people, a few beers and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to getting back to some normality. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, again, thank you both for your time today, and we'll catch up soon.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thanks. See you soon.